It was not born with a name, it was not born with a purpose, it was not born with anything except hunger. And the capacity to change. It emerged from the void, the way void creatures emerge. Without invitation. Without context. Without any understanding of the world it had entered. Without any desire to understand it. Just the cold, immediate, consuming need to feed. And the specific, terrifying ability to look at whatever it encountered and become something. Better at surviving it. This was different from other void creatures. Most of them adapted slowly, over generations. Over timescales that made individual encounters irrelevant. This one adapted fast. Between one fight and the next. Between consuming one creature and encountering the next. It carried its evolution with it. It was the speed of that adaptation that made it unlike anything else. It moved through Runeterra's wilderness. It ate. It changed. It became stronger, more adapted, more dangerous. Each creature it consumed taught it something. Each encounter refined it. Each death it survived made the next survival more likely. A flying creature's wings. A burrowing creature's ability to disappear. A predator's precision. A prey's awareness of being watched. It absorbed all of it. It was not collecting trophies, it was collecting solutions. Building itself into a more complete instrument of survival with every kill. It was learning. Not the way people learn, the way evolution learns. Fast, ruthless, without sentiment. And for months it was unchallenged. For months nothing in the world it had entered came close to stopping it. Then it found Rengar. And everything changed. Subscribe if you are new. A new League of Legends story every week. This one is about what happens when something from the void finds the one thing it cannot simply consume. The void is not a place with geography, not in any sense that maps could capture. It is absence, the space where existence is not, where the rules that organize the world do not apply, where the things that emerge from it carry that absence with them, like a wound that cannot close. The creatures that come from the void do not have intentions. They do not have goals or desires or purposes. They have one thing: appetite, the need to consume, the drive to take what exists and reduce it to nothing. Most void creatures never develop beyond this. They are the appetite and nothing else. Kha'Zix came from there, a predator born from nothing, shaped by the void's particular logic, which is not logic at all, which is appetite. Pure, endless, unstructured appetite. It entered the world and it was immediately, deeply alive. Not in the way living things usually feel alive, in the way a fire feels alive, consuming what it touches, spreading where it can, transforming everything it contacts into fuel. It consumed everything it could reach, and it listened to what each consumption told it. This creature's speed is useful. This creature's carapace is worth having. This creature's senses can be absorbed. It was not thinking in language. It was not planning in any structured way. It was adapting, moment to moment, encounter to encounter, growing into the shape that each challenge required. For months it moved through the wildlands, leaving behind a trail of changed ecosystems, of absent apex predators, of places where the food chain had been reorganized by the arrival of something that sat above, back its top. Nothing stopped it. Nothing came close. Until the jungle. Until the scent it caught one morning that was different from everything else. Not prey. Not predator in any category it had encountered. Something that smelled like violence that had been practiced for years and sharpened into. Something precise. Something that smelled like a hunter, not an animal hunter. Something that hunted with intent. It followed the scent. And it found Rengar. The encounter was immediate. Rengar did not hesitate. He had been hunting across the continent for the most dangerous prey he could find. He had exhausted everything else. He needed something that could actually test him. Something that looked at him and saw a challenge rather than something to flee. Kha'Zix looked at him and saw exactly that. They fought for the first time, and it was unlike anything either of them had experienced. Rengar's speed and ferocity were extraordinary. His combat techniques refined through years of hunting things that had tried to kill him. He was not just strong, he was skilled. He was someone who had turned the act of killing into art. He attacked with patterns, with angles chosen from experience, with timing that exploited the gap between one moment and the next. Kha'Zix had never encountered anything like this. Animals had strength and speed and instinct. This had something else: strategy. Kha'Zix fought him and felt something it had not felt before. Not threat, not even danger, challenge. The specific, electric sensation of facing something that it could not simply overcome by being what? More. By adapting once. By consuming and changing. The fight lasted longer than any fight before it. Much longer. And it ended in a way that had not happened before. They separated. Alive. Both of them. Rengar left with a scar. A scar across his eye that he would carry forever. A permanent record of the first encounter that had marked him. He had never been marked before. Not by anything. Kha'Zix left with something too. Not a scar. Something internal. Something that the Void's endless adaptation machinery was processing. The information from the encounter. The specific data of fighting something that thought. That planned. That anticipated. That could do what animals could not do. Predict. It had fought the most complex opponent it had ever met. And the adaptation it made was not physical, it was something deeper. An understanding that the prey worth pursuing was not the strongest. Or the fastest. Or the most armored. It was the most aware. The most intelligent. The most capable of the specific, uniquely difficult thing that separated people from animals. The ability to understand that they were going to die, and to choose what to do with that knowledge. The ability to be afraid and act anyway. The ability to formulate a strategy in the middle of a crisis. To adapt in real time rather than across generations. To do in a single fight what Kha'Zix required a lifetime to do. This was more interesting than anything else in the world. This was worth pursuing. Kha'Zix began hunting people. Not because it needed to, it had been fed before. It hunted them because they were the most interesting prey it had found. And because somewhere in the void-born logic of its existence, the encounter with Rengar had established something. A direction. A purpose that was not just hunger. The desire to find the one opponent that it could not simply adapt past. The search for the fight that would require everything it could become. It grew as it hunted. Its wings developed. Its blades became more precise. Its ability to survive in isolation sharpened. Its capacity to disengage, to reset, to choose the moment of engagement, became tactical in a way that went beyond instinct. It learned to wait, to observe before striking, to use the environment, to select the moment rather than just responding to it. These were things animals did not do. These were things that required a kind of awareness that the Void had not installed in it, that it had developed from the encounter with Rengar. From the ongoing process of hunting beings that could think back at it. It was thinking. Not the way people think, but not the way animals think either. Something between. Something new. Something the Void had not produced before. Because the Void had not encountered Rengar before. The rivalry was not over. It was barely started. Rengar hunted Kha'Zix because it was the only thing left that had made him feel the hunt. The only opponent that had left a mark. The only creature he had faced that deserved the name of prey in the fullest sense. Something worthy. Kha'Zix hunted Rengar because he was the only intelligent being it had faced that it could not adapt past in a single encounter. The only opponent that required more than one solution. The only prey that every time it thought it had solved, it turned out there was more to solve. The only thing in the world that made the Voidborn hunger feel like it was pointed at something specific, something worth being pointed at. The only prey that made the hunt feel like what it was supposed to feel like. The only one that made the endless adaptation feel like it was moving toward something. Not just consuming. Becoming. Two hunters. Two forms of hunger. Two creatures shaped entirely by the act of pursuit. Circling each other across the wildlands and the jungles, and wherever the hunt carried them. Each encounter added to the other. Rengar's tactics evolved in response to Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix's adaptations grew from each encounter with Rengar. They were making each other more dangerous. Not intentionally, as the inevitable consequence of rivalry. Of two things at the top of their respective categories continuously pushing against each other. Neither finished. Neither finished. The encounter that would settle it was always ahead. Always one more adaptation away. Always in the next jungle. The next hunt. The next moment when the scent found the air and one of them turned toward it. And moved. Neither of them could stop. Not because they were compelled from outside. Because the hunt was the point. The only point that had ever made complete sense to either of them. And this hunt, this specific ongoing unresolved hunt, was the most sense either of them had ever found in anything. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. Every week, a new League of Legends story. The ones shaped entirely by the hunt.